Hi, welcome back to Surviving Disruption. I'm Stacey Johnson, and I'm a woman empowerment coach. And I am so glad that you have come into my world where I can help provide tips, parenting tips, mom tips. This is where we are coming together to find ways how to manage and handle all of those daily disruptions that can impact the way we parent, the way we are taking care of ourselves. And so I'm so glad that you're here. And today we're going to talk about that moment when you think, I can't handle this. Put in the comments, let me know. How often are you saying that to yourself? I just can't handle this anymore. I can't do it. And if you've whispered that, if you've whispered those words to yourself while you are staring at all the dishes in the sink, while your kids are arguing, or just when another responsibility gets piled on, you're not alone. We've all been there. I know I have. I know that I have said those phrases often, especially when my kids were younger, when they were in school and we were running from, our house to sporting events or Girl Scouts or church events, whatever it was. And I just had that stressful day at work. In fact, I think I may have said that this morning when the dogs asked to go outside for the 20th time. And now they're barking. So I need to close my office door. Yes, some days you have that thought. I just can't do this anymore. And that that does happen. And our brains create these stories from stress. When we're overwhelmed, our thoughts can spiral into, I'm not enough. I can't do this. I'm failing. And these are the stories that come from exhaustion, guilt, and caring too much. They don't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean you're being a horrible mother by having these thoughts. It means you're human and your nervous system is asking for safety. Now, the one thing about these thoughts is that we have to learn how to stop them and change them because what can happen is they can get ingrained. And then when they get ingrained and we, you know, constantly say them to ourselves, that's when our body can ultimately stay in that fight or flight based on our own thoughts. And the story you tell yourself shapes how you show up with your kids or at work and even in other relationships. So if the story is, I can't handle this, you're carrying heaviness, frustration, and shame. But if the story is shifted to, I've got this, then you carry confidence, patience, and even resilience. So I know from my own experience of raising kids is that we could have this, you could be in this route, rushing around in the morning. Maybe the kids aren't listening. They're not brushing their teeth. They're not getting their shoes on. And you have that panic feeling inside you where you're going to, they're going to miss the bus. And your brain creates the story of we'll never get out of here on time. That creates more panic, more frustration. But what if you shifted it to we're learning how to move together, how to create this better schedule for ourselves, one step at a time? How does that shift how you feel? Or maybe homework battles. I know that homework, not only was I parent to young children at one time, but I also was an administrator in a school for many years. And I know that homework can create a very stressful time. And your kids don't necessarily want to do homework. They want to play. They've been at school all day long and they just want to play. But you don't want to look like the bad parent that doesn't have the kids get their homework done. And they're battling. They're arguing with you about doing it. And your story is, I'm failing because my kid won't listen. I'm going to look like that bad mom when my kid shows up tomorrow with no homework. What if you created, and so that story itself creates this, one could be guilt, or again, I'm not going to be, everybody's going to judge me. The teacher's going to judge me. And I feel so that creates that more anxiety, that frustration by listening to that story. But what if you said to yourself, this is a tough moment. My kid is frustrated about homework, but this does not define me as a mom. How does that shift the way you feel? And again, that story of when you see the dishes piled up or the laundry's piling up and you've had a difficult day at work and you come home saying, I just can't handle this. I'm too weak. I just don't have the strength to do all of this. Again, is creating that thought and those feelings coming from I'm not good enough creates that feeling of anxiousness, anger. What if you shifted that story? What feelings would you be feeling? And so learning to rewrite our story is a very important step in regulating our nervous system, managing our feelings. It changes everything when we shift our story. So learning to rewrite our story is very important. And so awareness is the first piece. You need to be aware of the story. A lot of times we're not aware of the story that we're creating. I've worked with many clients that have come to me saying, I'm anxious, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not sleeping. And when we start to pull back the layers, they start to realize the story that they have. And 9 times out of 10, the story is, I'm not good enough. And so learning to rewrite that story can help create this, it just changes the way you see yourself, the way you present yourself, and the way you feel. So what I want you to do is make sure you subscribe to this channel if you have not yet, so that you can come back every time I give a new training, you'll be notified of it. But on Friday, we are going to talk about, I'm going to go live on Friday, October, that's the 10th already, at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about how this story that we write to ourselves, how it keeps us stuck, and how do we help get ourselves unstuck. Plus, I'm going to provide you a somatic technique that will help create that calmness or help regulate that nervous system. So please make sure that you come back on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Plus, I want to, when you guys start coming to live, we're going to start doing some contests, or not even contests, but I'm going to start rewarding the audience when you comment. You'll be able to start earning some free gifts from me. So please make sure that you come back on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for the live.